Hi, this is Gautam. For today's episode of Atlas Agenda, we want to look at Ukraine. And thanks to all those students who had commented on the comment section for the previous discussion. Now, the reason why Ukraine is in news is pretty well known. Ukraine-Russia war has been going on for more than 3 years with no end in sight. And presently, like that is the date of this particular recording, February the 3rd, close to 20% of Ukrainian territory is under Russian control. There are different plans for negotiation. We have to wait and see how things are going to move forward. Now, as I told you, we are not going to concern ourselves with geopolitics. Our objective is to focus predominantly from the prelims perspective. So, the first point which we want to understand is the location of Ukraine. Ukraine is present in southeastern part of Europe, or technically the eastern part of Europe. It's an Eastern European country, and it's the second largest country in the European continent. Now, why is this factor important? It's a highly connected country. It has border with at least 7 nations. This was asked as a question in 2023 prelims, and most students will get some factors right. For example, they know that the larger boundary of Ukraine is with Russia. Ukraine also borders Belarus. At the same time, the Eastern European country of Poland. Ukraine has a border with this landlocked country called Moldova and also the country of Romania. Where things go wrong is that Ukraine also has borders with two Central European nations. The two Central European nations, as you see clearly, are one, Slovakia, and the second one is Hungary. So when you prepare generally, you will not be making any mistakes with Romania, Moldova, Russia, Belarus, and Poland, but mostly these two areas, Slovakia and Hungary. So this is with reference to Ukraine's physical location and the political boundaries of its neighbors. Now we have to understand about physiography. We have spoken about this in our earlier episodes. If you look at physiography, they can ask you questions on rivers. And specifically for rivers, the questions will be where are the rivers flowing into rather than the source or origin point. Source or origin point is a type of discussion which you get for India based rivers or Indian geography. So if you look at Ukraine, Ukraine is predominantly a plain. You don't have a lot of mountainous territory except for 5 to 7% of the surface area. And a major mountain range in the western part of Ukraine is something which you find right here. They are called as the Carpathians. So Carpathians are spread over, the northeastern part of Hungary or the western part of Ukraine with the border with Romania. But apart from the Carpathian Mountains, it is mostly a plain region. And this allows large number of rivers to be present in the territory of Ukraine. And we have to know the presence of at least 4 rivers, which may be beneficial for the exam perspective. The first river, which you should definitely know for sure, is this river called as Dnieper. Let me just trace the orientation for you. So that is Dnieper River. Dnieper. The Dnieper River flows into Black Sea, which is the type of question they can ask you. And if you look at the diagram, you will note that there are large areas of reservoirs. The importance of the river is based on its hydroelectric potential. And in the year 2023, when the conflict was quite intense even back then between Russia and Ukraine, the reservoir which is present in the south, known as Kakova Reservoir, was badly damaged during the conflict between the two countries. And one more important thing to note is you see the peninsula right here. Like any time you prepare for map, I'm pretty sure that most of you are familiar with Crimean Peninsula. From the Kakova Reservoir, there is a canal which connects to Crimea. So this is called as a Northern Crimean Canal. Now, why is this significant? Well, Crimean Peninsula is mostly dry and it struggles for freshwater resources. So after the annexation of Crimea by Russia in 2014, Ukraine had mostly limited waters which flows through the Kakova Reservoir. And during the conflict with Russia, the reservoir was badly damaged, which also allowed water to flow and allowed Russia to bring access to Crimean Peninsula. So that's what makes Dnieper important. So that's river number one. The second and third are pretty simple. The second river is the river of Southern Bur. It's right here. Again, flowing into Black Sea, Southern Bur. Now, it is called as Southern Bur because there is a Bur in the north. So this is the small elevated region present in Ukraine, and you have the river Bur, which flows into the river Vistula, which is the longest river in Poland. So to differentiate from that river, we have the river Southern Bug, again flowing into Black Sea. That's river number two. The third river is Dniester. Third river is Dniester. So this river is in Ukraine and also in the neighboring country of Moldova, Dniester. But what is more important rather than the flowing countries is the fact that all three of them flow into Black Sea, which is important for your prelims examination. The fourth river is actually present on the eastern side. The river which you find on the eastern side is Donetsk. But keep this in mind, Donetsk is not an independent river. River Donetsk is a tributary of River Don. Don is a river from Russia, and River Don flows into not Black Sea, as all of you know, it is a Sea of Azov, which is present right here. So you have to remember that most of the rivers in Ukraine have a northwestern to southeastern orientation. That is exactly they flow. The three major rivers flow into Black Sea, and the fourth river is a tributary of River Don. You have to keep it in mind, and that flows into Sea of Azov. So now let me proceed to the next discussion, which is regarding important locations, that is both city-based regions and province-based regions, which can be asked for map. We've discussed this multiple times in the earlier episodes also. If there is a region or a city which is in a conflict prone zone, they can ask the region or the city in match the following for where exactly it is or which country it is exactly present. So you have to keep this in mind. So if you take the the map of Ukraine, we just want to focus on this particular area, especially the eastern side, where the conflict between Russia and Ukraine is intense. And important locations to note are these. So this is your Dnieper River, and it is in the southeastern region of Ukraine that there is intense infighting. So if they're going to frame questions, you should definitely know that. Okay, here we have Kherson, this is Donetsk, this is Luhansk. So these three are major regions, and this is Kharkiv. The city is Kharkiv. At the same time, some locations which are present in Russia, uh, Ukraine also launched an offensive against Russia in a place called Kursk, which is close to the northeastern side of Ukraine, which was an offensive, and Russia was able to reclaim most of the territory. Sorry, Kursk, Kursk. So that's location number one in Russia. And the second one is Rostov, Rostov, which is present inside Russia. And the last place is this one, Novorossiysk. So Novorossiysk is a Russian port in Black Sea, but Novorossiysk is a shallow water port compared to the port Sevastopol, which historically had the Russian Black Sea naval fleet, and that is the main reason why Crimea was annexed by Russia in the year 2014 and 2015. And that annexation is mostly not approved by, mostly not approved by all the major powers and international players too. So this is with reference to cities which are present in Ukraine and Russia, which can be asked the following question, since it's a conflict-prone region. Kharkiv, Luhansk, Donetsk, and then finally Kherson and Sevastopol in Crimea, Kursk, Rostov, and then Novorossiysk. These are the border regions in Russia. And finally, I'd like to show you the provinces also before we link with Iran. So these are the four major provinces. Again, we're repeating the names. Luhansk, Donetsk, Zaporizhzhia, which was a question in the previous year 2023, Kherson, and then finally Crimea. So these are the areas where the fighting is intense. Before I show you the question, I just want you to recall something. Like the previous episodes, we had spoken about Iran, we had also spoken about Yemen, and today our discussion is on Ukraine. Like anytime you prepare, keep that in mind that these areas are important. That is location of Black Sea, Caspian Sea, Mediterranean Sea, Red Sea, and then finally Persian Gulf. Okay, and I believe most of you know that your Sea of Azov and your Black Sea is connected by your Kerch Strait. Kerch Strait, which can be a simple question for your prelims examination. And one important thing to notice, there is one more format UPSC has asked, not just about bordering countries of water bodies, but also on the idea of who exactly are exceptional. That is, if you take a country like Turkey, So this was a question asked in 2014 prelims. Turkey is sandwiched between Black Sea and Mediterranean Sea. So this is one idea which you always know. We just want to build on this. Look at the location of Russia. Russia borders Black Sea and then Caspian Sea. Look at the location of Iran, like this was discussed in one of the previous episodes. Iran borders Caspian Sea and Persian Gulf. The combinations change: Turkey, Mediterranean Sea and Black Sea; Russia, Black Sea and Caspian Sea; Iran, Caspian Sea and Persian Gulf; and Saudi Arabia borders Persian Gulf, and then you have the border with Red Sea. And look at the perspective from Egypt right now. Egypt borders Red Sea. At the same time, Egypt has a border with Mediterranean. So that is why I mentioned about the five water bodies, and these are very important states because on account of their location, you can clearly see state one, two, three, 4, and 5. Since they are present between two connection areas, it has greater relevance for your exam. So, with that, I'm going to close this episode and discussion. So, as we all know, we started with the political boundaries, then to the major rivers in Ukraine where they are flowing through, then for the conflict prone regions, which could be a potential question for your exam. And now, let me wrap up the discussion with a question for this episode. So, whichever we focus on determines what we miss also. So, this time, our question is on Baltic Sea, not the water bodies which we saw right now. Consider the countries Russia, Poland, Norway, and Germany. How many of the above countries border Baltic Sea? And these are your options. Hope this discussion was useful to you. And just like every week, I'll meet you next Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. Thanks for your time. Bye for now. This is Gautam signing off.